next we will be going into a time of Bible study. So for this Lent, we are focusing on a theme called Lent. So like last week we had a time of adoration, reflecting on the last words of Jesus. So this going forward, we are going to look to the theme of mercy of God and the love of God. So to start off, we'll have the amazing Alwin to go through the Bible passage of the woman caught in adultery from the Bible. So we will be led by Alwin today on that passage.
Thanks, Thomas, for that very nice introduction and for the alliteration in your intro. Can everyone see my screen? Yes.
We can.
No, baby.
Yes, we can.
Okay, sweet. And can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, sweet. Right. Yeah. So as Thomas said, today's Bible study is on a woman caught in adultery. So, I mean, yeah, everyone knows about this one. So I think I'll just start by reading through this, and then there's going to be a couple of questions I'm going to be asking, and then I think we'll just go into breakout rooms, maybe for 7 minutes, something like that. Quickly chat about the questions, not the questions that are coming up next, the ones after that, and then we'll just come back together as well. So just to start off with, I'm just going to read this now. So, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. At dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let any of you who is without sin be first to throw a stone at her." Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left, with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go now and leave your life of sin." With this, I just wanted to go through the 4 senses, which we might not know. So I think that's best to just quickly go over. The 4 senses are just different ways of interpreting scripture. So there's the literal sense, which is pretty self-explanatory. So it's literally what is happening. Then there's allegorical, which is, so with these, if there is anything that I'm saying a bit wrong, or someone hears it and goes, "Wait, that's not exactly what it is," just drop a comment in the chat as well, so people are correctly informed. But yeah, allegorical, my understanding is that what it says about Jesus. And anagogical would be, what is the eternal significance? So what does it say about death and the final judgment and our life in heaven? And moral is how we must act and what we must do based on what we've read. So going back to that, the questions that I have based on the literal sense. Now this is just, I'm just going to be asking these questions here, and just drop it in the chat when you have the answer. So who are the different people and groups that are present in this passage? You can actually call it out as well. You can say it. I think George is saying something, but he's muted, so he's discussing.
There's Jesus, Pharisees, the woman, said by Evelyn. Naveen said Jesus, woman, Pharisees, and people, said by Naveen.
Yeah.
Any more answers? No, not yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's a pretty quick one, which is who's there. And then what do you think was their goal in no, little quiz time. So what do you think, why did they aim to trap Jesus with their question? Like, why were they, what was their goal with it? What was their end goal with that, with trapping Jesus with this question?
If you know the answer, just type it in the chat or just shout out loud. Both are okay.
Preferably just shout it out. Just keep it
They wanted to kind of like prove that Jesus was wrong, you know, like his teachings were false, and that so people shouldn't follow him, you know, say something that's incorrect, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of like they wanted him to choose between justice and mercy. So like he's trapped, he has to choose either one and not both. But then, you know, he goes around preaching mercy. And if he chooses that, then he's kind of going against the Mosaic law. So they also wanted like to kill him at the end as well. So they wanted like solid proof, you know, this guy is going against all of our laws.
Yeah. We want to see if Jesus goes against the laws given by Moses. Yeah. So, yeah. And then the third question is, and this is kind of because they could have done this by just asking him, hey, if there's a woman caught in adultery, what would she do? What should we do? So what do you think was their goal in bringing the woman in front of Jesus in public?
To make it more difficult for him to actually, you know, if he was going to condemn her, he'd actually have to do it in front of the people and her.
Yeah.
See, I think apparently according to Roman law, Jews weren't allowed to kill anyone. Like they could enact their own punishments, but if Jesus condemned her, he would have had to stone, like encourage the stoning of her, which means the Romans would kill him for breaking Roman law. And if he didn't, he'd be breaking Mosaic law. So maybe.
Yeah, that's part of it as well. Tried to get him in a little checkmate, but turns out he wasn't playing chess. Just playing a different board. With the last one, what are some of the, so Jesus kind of moves around a lot in this passage. So what are some of the physical actions Jesus does during this passage?
He draws on the ground.
Yeah, that's one of them.
He questions the people that are around him.
Yeah, I mean, this is more physically what he.
Oh, physical. Okay.
Does he not look up or something? You know, like after he draws on the ground. No, I forget the passage. So he looks up after he and then he's like looking around and he's like, where are they gone? Where is?
It's getting to, yeah. That's he straightens up. Yeah.
Is that too literal?
Very literal, yeah.
He breathes.
Basically, a lot of what he does has a lot of significance. Yeah, stoop down and wrote with his finger. He, stands back up, stoops again to draw. So he moves a lot during this chapter, but it's not without meaning that it's written there as well. That he stoops down, then he straightens up, and then he stoops down again, and then he writes on the ground. And all of this has meaning there as well. So next, I've sent these. So these are questions for the moral, the allegorical, and anagogical senses. But just to start with, one of the questions I'd asked was, why did they bring the woman in front of Jesus? So there is that thing of they wanted to trap him in that way, but there's also something where Jesus is a public religious spokesperson, and they have this person who they can use as a scapegoat to say, oh, this person's bad, I'm good. And they have that. They can publicly just be like, oh, I'm following all the rules. This person broke the rules, and therefore, here's Jesus, who is really popular with the people. And Jesus will then publicly agree with them and go, oh, you're right. This person is bad and you're good. And another interesting thing that Naina did bring up, which was the man also caught in sin isn't present. So they only got what they needed to make a point, which was like if they were going by the law, if they were like, okay, this is the law, we need justice, they would have brought both of them, and both of them would have gotten the repercussions of their actions. But they only got the woman because they just wanted to make a point, which is what they did. Also, this is what Naveen mentioned, which was they wanted Jesus to either admit that Moses was wrong about his strict teaching at the time, or that God's commandment had a fault in it, or that his own teaching about the mercy of God was wrong. Because at the time, there's this overall idea of Jesus just becoming really popular, and he's also breaking certain rules in their eyes about, eating with tax collectors, and not fasting publicly, and doing all these things that they're saying is the right thing. But then Jesus is getting more and more popular, and he's doing all these things. So they're then bring up this Mosaic law and say, oh, what do you say about this? Just to kind of trap him in that way as well, because it diminished their own standing in society, because their whole thing is that they follow all these rules and they're living a holy life. So Jesus, as his popularity is growing, it's diminishing their own position in society. And they wanted to trap him because they, as followers of the law, they want to feel that they're right and justified in the way that they're living their life because they follow the rules. And they don't want to accept that they need God's mercy because they want to see themselves as perfect, and they want to, like, the idea of needing mercy would be more like a weakness, which is where they're also kind of accepting they're prone to sin, and they want to be saved through their own control by doing public fasting, by speaking, by doing all these things. They're like, okay, we're doing what we need, and we've checked off all these lists, and we got the goal. And this is a part of the pride that they're showing as well. And this is when Jesus makes it clear that we all need mercy. And he doesn't say it. He doesn't say we all need mercy. He shows it by challenging these people who are challenging these people to say, those who are without sin, cast the first stone. And this challenge clarifies that nobody there except Jesus is without sin. And the second thing is they need God's grace and mercy. And Jesus shows that he's not showing that God's teaching is wrong, but how we as humans can actually take and warp a good teaching to our own benefit by going, oh, look at this teaching, we're following it, therefore we're good, and everyone who doesn't follow it is bad. And they're taking these people as scapegoats by going, oh, this person didn't follow this person didn't follow this person didn't follow this, therefore they're bad and I'm good. And the society was just kind of warping and going in a way that wasn't right. So Jesus is giving this example and challenging these people to kind of show, wait, this isn't the right way. And as Georgios said, a reading during this from Corinthians, which was God is choosing the lowly and despised to show these people that they need this mercy. Then with the allegorical sense, which would be about what it says about Jesus, what I thought about is it shows Jesus as the merciful God. It shows how mercy is available to us as sinners who previously would have deserved death. And this mercy is available because of Jesus and his incarnation and his eventual sacrifice for us. And with Jesus, he brought with him a new hope for sinners through the sacrament of reconciliation, of confession. So Jesus alone is the righteous judge. Nina said something quite funny, which was like we're at the last judgment, and who's going to cast the first stone? It's like Jesus there. Like he's the one who can cast the stone. And I think looking at it from an analogical perspective, which would be about what it says from kind of an eternal perspective, is the woman is like us, like the sinful humanity in need of God's mercy. And the act of Jesus stooping down on the ground can be seen as him kind of coming down to our level, just like he came down to earth for us. And the thing is, each time he stoops down, he is showing his mercy. And each time he stands up upright, he is showing his justice, because he stands up the first time and he asks them, he challenges them, whoever is without sin, to cast the first stone. and then he stoops down again. And the second time he stands upright, he tells the woman, go and do not sin. So he's kind of giving us final judgment there as well. So the woman, and then it shows at the very end, the woman so she's standing throughout this whole thing. So at the first time she's standing in shame, just in front of all these people, suddenly being caught in adultery, the secret being revealed. And at the very end, it's that image of the woman just standing alone with Jesus. So that image is of us at the end, because it's just us and it's just Jesus and our judgment. And from the moral perspective, when Jesus challenges them, the crowds realize their own fallen state, about their own need for mercy. And just like that, we need to realize and accept that that we need God, and that we can't just do everything by ourselves, and that we can't achieve complete freedom from sin without God, and we're always susceptible to falling to sin. And Jaslyn sang that song Majesty earlier. It's a beautiful song. There's a line in it which is your grace has found me just as I am, because it's not your grace has found me when I went and did all these things and lived a perfect life. It's finding me just as I am. And that's a really important point, because it's about us kind of not going, oh, you can't, I'm not ready. And, you just keep holding yourself like that for the rest of your life. And just having that humility to understand that we all need God's mercy, regardless of how far we think we are in our journey. And the other thing I wanted to clarify is the moral isn't don't judge, like don't judge anybody. They're like, oh, remember this Bible passage, just don't judge anyone. It's to judge yourself first, because the sacrament of reconciliation, of confession, allows us to bring our sins before God and be forgiven. So the message isn't necessarily you just shouldn't judge anyone. It's that we should judge ourselves clearly first, then worry about the other people later. So those are the thoughts I had. Wait, I realize I'm not sharing my screen anymore. Let me just bring it back here, because that's basically all I wanted to say. I'm pretty sure the next page is a meme. So wait, is it a meme? Yes, it is a meme. So he says, let the one among you who's without sin throw the first stone. And then a stone comes flying out of nowhere. And guess who it is? It's Mother Mary. That's everything I have to say for this passage. One thing I want us to lead on from is something Evelyn has prepared, if you could speak through it, which is the four, because we think that the journey from vice to virtue, from sin to purity, is just like you're here, then you're there. You just cross a line and then you're done. It's like, you press of a button and it's done. And that kind of cannot halt our progress, because we go, oh, I'm back on this side again, and I'll just stay here for a while and then I'll come over there eventually. Or I'm on this side and then they're terrified of falling to the other side. So I think this will help with that.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, so this is something that someone, this is what Aristotle figured out like ages and ages ago. And we always think of, like, in the church, we talk about having virtues, and then we also talk about like the vices that we shouldn't have. And I didn't know that there were like two steps in between it, right? So I always thought it was either just like you're a virtuous person or you're a vicious person. And it seems so impossible to jump from vice to virtue, because you're like, oh, you always associate all these virtues with saints and vices with the devil, or like different demons in hell. But there's actually steps that you can go through and progress from vice to virtue if you wish to do so, with the grace of God. The first thing is to always go to God. Don't prepare yourself first. Don't be like, let me clean myself first and then go to God. Always straight up go to God, and then he's going to help you go through this. So if you're in a state of vice, or if you're a vicious person, it means that you are inclined towards choosing what is bad, what is immoral, what is unethical, right? So you don't weigh the good or the bad. You just you are motivated for a passion for evil. So it could be something like lying. It could be something like watching pornography. It could be something like eating too much, or sloth, like just wasting your time on the internet. And you don't care. You don't care that you're wasting your time. You don't weigh the good or the bad. You're just doing it, and your passion is for what is evil. Your passion is for wasting your time, and your action, wasting your time, is also wrong. Now, the next step after that, right? If you're slightly better than that, which is why there's like one little angel and two devils, you can see the good, right? You can see that, okay, maybe I shouldn't be wasting all my time on the internet. And yet you choose to do the bad anyway. So your passion against is leaning towards what is bad, and you choose to do bad. Even though you see that there's a good somewhere, you end up choosing to do bad. And thirdly, so that if you're in that state, it's called incontinence, right? And the third state is called continence. I'll make a really bad joke. They're Asia and Africa and North America, and now everyone hates me. So if you're a continent person, right, or in being in the state of continence, is when you can see the good and you can choose the good, but you do it really, like, you do it with great difficulty. So like my example for that is fasting, right? I can see the good in fasting, and I want to do fasting, but it's really hard for me to do fasting. I end up doing it anyway sometimes, but it's really hard for me to choose fasting because my body's inclined towards the bad, because my body wants to gorge on food. And finally, you have, you're in a state of virtue. And when you're in a state of virtue, you envision the good. So you see the good and you're able to choose the good, and you can choose it freely, you can choose it joyfully, and you can choose it quickly, like promptly. You don't have to think about it. And your mind is aligned towards the good. Your soul is aligned towards the good. And you don't have the same dilemma that the continent person or the incontinent person has. So again, vice, you don't even care about what is good or bad. Incontinent, you can see the good, but you choose to do bad anyway. When you're continent, this is probably where most of us are, and that's a good place to be. If you're continent, you choose the good. It is with great difficulty at times, but you still choose the good. And if you're virtuous, good job, because you can see the good and you choose it freely and joyfully and promptly. So I know in Lent, a lot of people are giving up stuff, or they're taking up stuff. And if you're trying to move from a certain vice to a certain virtue, don't ever think, oh no, I fell back into this again. I ate too much today, or I wasted time today. If you can look at yourself on one of these scales and see, okay, I am 3 devils, I need to move into a step where I'm only 2 devils, right? And 1 angel. If you're in a step where there is 2 angels and 1 devil, you want to move into a stage where there are 3 angels. And that's about it. So moving from vice to virtue in a stepwise manner. That's all, Alwin. Thank you.